Wonderful. Thanks, everybody. We're going to get started. This session is for the Improving Life Through Food. If you're looking for some of the other sessions, again, just go around the wall over here. But welcome. I'm here to introduce Leslie, our speaker. Leslie Shalabi is a co-founder of the Convivium Urban Farmstead, which is out of Dubuque. It's a non-profit-based organization. Their mission is to improve life through food. A long life lover of food and entertainment, Leslie is dedicated to helping people find ways to connect through the universal languages of food and hospitality. She graduated from the University of Wisconsin, where she earned a major in journalism and anthropology. After 20 years in the corporate world, she actually founded this nonprofit called Convivium, bringing people together through food. Leslie will talk about how intentional engagement with food can strengthen relationships, foster resiliency, and cultivate a deeper sense of place. Let's give a round of applause as she makes her way to the podium.
Thank you. I envisioned being in a much smaller room when I was thinking about this. So, as we embark on this presentation today, I don't want you to feel like I'm up on a stage talking to you. I'd like to talk with you. So if you have questions, comments, things that you want to talk about, please just pipe up, okay? All right. So improving life through food, we talked about that. So we are actually a nonprofit organization, and this is our mission, to improve life through food. Clicker. So we are founded on the idea that a lot of the world's problems stem from a lack of connection. So if you think about connection in terms of concentric circles, so connection to ourselves and our own health, connection to our larger community and our neighbors, and connection to our environment. So at Convivium, we hope to foster this connection or reconnection to those areas of our life, and we use food to do it. The idea of Convivium really started with the concept of legacy. So, as mentioned in the intro, I didn't start in the farming world or really in the food world at all. I was a journalist for a long time, and then I was a marketing professional for a long time in the construction industry, of all things. And I was reaching kind of mid-late career and thinking, this really isn't doing it for me anymore. It's the 401k looks nice, but my heart is sort of empty. So what would a second half of my life look like? And that's where the question and the inspiration for Convivium came from. How do we create legacy? So food, can be a great connector with people to each other and people to the earth. And I really wanted to try and create an organization that used food to do that, to help connect people. So we are located in Dubuque, just across the river. We're in the north end. How many are from the area and know what I'm talking about? Okay, so the north end of Dubuque is sort of the wrong side of the tracks. It's not a particularly great part of the city, but I happen to love it. And so it was important to make an investment in an area that really needed it. There were some old greenhouses that were for sale. They've been greenhouses on this footprint since 1909. And they were rather large. It's about 13,000 square feet of greenhouse space, but they were totally falling down. And so I looked at it, thought, great, I'll take it. And then embarked a long process of working with architects and construction and reconstruction. So this is the before. We bought the property in 2013 and then began construction at the end of 2015 and finished at the beginning of 2017 when we opened to the public. Here is the same sort of view of what it looks like now. Yeah, it's quite an endeavor. I'm going to talk about all the different things that we do at Convivium. So I mentioned earlier, the mission is to improve life through food. We accomplish that mission through classes. So this says foster connection to ourselves, our community, and our environment. We focus on 3 areas of the food cycle. So growing food, preparing food, and enjoying food, or grow, cook, eat. And we do classes, demonstrations, and experiences under each of those categories. So when you look at us, if you come to visit us, you're going to see all these different things, but if you use this kind of framework to think about what we're doing, everything makes a lot more sense. So, for instance, an eating experience might be that you come to our restaurant. So we have a restaurant, we're open for breakfast and lunch, Wednesday through Sunday. And we use a lot of our own food in the restaurant. So we're growing. A growing experience might be coming to tour our gardens. So we are in a very dense urban area. If you're familiar with the North End, there's not a lot of open space to grow. And when we were remodeling and working through the whole construction process with Convivium, there is a big parking or a big back lot area. And so we were just going to do all of our growing there. But then reality set in, and the city's like, you have to have a parking lot. I'm like, don't you understand what we're trying to do? Not a parking lot. But we had to put a parking lot in. So then we're faced, well, what do we do? Where do we grow? We just started looking around the neighborhood, and we realized that there's actually quite a bit of space in people's backyards. And so we knocked on the door of the hair salon on the corner, which is in an old house, and said, what would you think about if your crazy neighbors put a garden in your backyard? And they said, great, we don't have to mow it. And they were very happy about that. So we put the garden in the backyard, and that is the only people that we asked. Everybody else came to us and said, hey, can you do that in my backyard? Can you do that in my backyard? We now have 6 auxiliary gardens throughout the neighborhood, about 13,000 square feet, again, of growing space. We produce between 4,000 and 5,000 pounds of produce each year. That, like I said, that we use in the restaurant. We have an extensive catering operation. We teach classes. We teach all kinds of cooking classes. We have a value add product development stuff that we do. We make our own Bloody Mary mix and sell it, tomato jam, pestos, all of that stuff is made and then sold. We also, actually I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, so classes, cooking classes and gardening classes. We do both of those on site. We have a training kitchen and then an area for teaching classes, hands-on gardening classes as well. Our demonstrations. So we realized pretty early on that we're doing all this stuff. We're turning the compost pile and we're pruning fruit trees and we're doing all of these things that a lot of people have questions about. And why not simply open these things up to the public? So whenever we're doing something kind of big, we make a point of letting everybody know on social media, hey, if you want to watch us prune fruit trees and learn how to do that, come today. The most recent one that we did is we harvested our honey. We have urban bees, and we take the honey, the frames out of the hives, and then we have to harvest that honey. So we open it up for folks to come and watch us do that. So those are demonstrations. And then experiences. Come and actually interact with us. So we have a garden tour that we do. You can do it self-guided. There's all kinds of signage that we have throughout the neighborhood and a map that you can pick up in the restaurant. Or you can have a guided tour. We are actually an excursion stop for the cruise boats that come up and down the Mississippi River. So when they come ashore and go to the art museum and the 4th Street elevator, they can also come to Convivium. We tour through about 1,200 people from all over the world throughout the year. So that this is an extensive part of what we do. We walk through our gardens and everyone's amazed at all the things that we're doing. So we wouldn't be able to do anything that we're doing without our volunteers. We interact with about 300 individual folks throughout the year to get all of this work done. They donate around 5,000 hours of time, and those hours are broken up into 3 different categories. So we have folks who are working in the garden. We have folks who are working in the kitchen, which is essentially processing the harvest. And then we have folks who are involved in our free casserole program, which I'm going to get to in a second. Just said that. So we grow our food here. I'm getting way ahead of myself. Our catering and our casserole program. We also grow food for our community. So we have 3 types of gardens that we plant, and these are just arbitrarily named. So we have production gardens, which are what they sound like. We're producing large quantities of food for all of these things that I was talking about. We have demonstration gardens where we are demonstrating either a unique technique in growing, it's typically a small space gardening technique, or we're modeling and growing a unique type of vegetable or fruit, or a unique variety of a familiar vegetable. So we have about 4 or 5 demonstration gardens throughout the neighborhood, and it gives us something to talk about when we're on the tour, and it's a great education for the community. We also have what we just called our common beds. So they're all yellow. They're yellow raised bed gardens. We've sort of branded them yellow. And we have about 20 of them throughout the neighborhood, further away from the actual campus of Convivium. These are planted and tended with the intention for the public to come and pick and take whatever they'd like. So this is a way that we give back to the community. The area that we are in is considered a food desert, and so we're under no illusions that this is solving a systemic problem, but it's solving it for the people who use this food. So we're happy to do that. Our casserole program. Okay, so this was a COVID thing for us. So that year, we're starting our seeds. We start all of our bedding plants from seed in March, right? And that's when everything kind of blew up. And we're like, okay, well, we don't know what's going on. We're just going to continue with our gardens because this thing's going to blow over, right? So we did the whole thing, got the seeds, get the plants, get them in the ground in May, and then it's August and September, and we have 4,000 pounds of food and no restaurant. Nothing's running as normal. So what do we do? It was also a time, especially in our neighborhood, where there's a lot of low-income people that we were seeing very starkly that folks were having to make a lot of really difficult choices. Do I pay my rent? Do I pay my medication? Or do I get food? So we thought, well, why not try and solve 2 problems, our problem and their problem, by simply giving away food? We didn't have the idea of doing direct services when we started our nonprofit. We had the sort of teach a man to fish philosophy. We wanted to teach people about food, to empower them to make their own decisions and have skills in the area of both growing and cooking food. But this was a situation where all bets were off. So we applied for some funding from the city to get the rest of the stuff that we needed to transform our vegetables into healthy, free casseroles that we gave away. So we started making 100 casseroles a week, and we just put out a post on social media, come and get a casserole. So we did that. People are lined up down the block. We continued weekly with 100 casseroles for 3 months, which is what that funding was for. And we got to the end of that, and we're like, okay, we're done. And people are like, you can't stop. You have to keep going. Okay. So it was a matter of trying to find funding and then also volunteer labor to get this done. And I said from the get-go, as long as we can have money and as long as we can have people to do it, we'll continue. This September will be 5 years. We've given away 42,000 casseroles over the time that we've done this. It's quite remarkable. That equates to about 170,000 meals that we've provided during that time. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. 250, 70. We do have a delivery element. There's actually quite a few people who have difficulty leaving the home. And we know through collecting demographic information that about 70% of our recipients are living on a combined household income of less than $25,000 a year. So it's the folks getting these are the folks who need them. But I think an important element of the casserole program is that there's no requirements. The requirement is you need a casserole. So if you are tired and don't want to make dinner that night, stop by for a casserole. If you have 9 foster children that you're trying to feed, come and get 2 casseroles. That happens. If you are, there's a million stories like this. We got a thank you note from a woman, a young woman. She had 2 little kids and was skipping meals so her kids could eat. Yeah, it's so crazy to think about that. And now she said, now I get a casserole. It's our favorite night of the week. We have it, and then we have it that night, and I have lunch for myself for 2 more days. So there was a woman whose husband had died very unexpectedly. The financial situation was crazy. She had like $90 a month for groceries. So she lived on our casseroles for 2 years. She said we have 2 sizes. She'd come and get a big one. She'd portion it out, put little portions in the freezer and pull it out all week long. And she came actually just about a month ago and said, I'm doing good and I don't need the casseroles. And so that's super great to hear that as well, those little success stories. You just don't really know what happens when you are when you give without strings. There's so many different kind of repercussions. There was one woman who came and got a casserole. This was in the very beginning. We would hand out recipes for the casserole so folks would know. She'd come every week, get a casserole, take the recipe, go home. And she told us later, much later, like at the end of the 3 months, she said, I don't need this casserole, but I come and get it, and I taste it, and if I like it, I make 6 more and give them away. Yeah. I mean, like that's the kind of stuff that's happening, and you just don't even know. You do a kind thing, and it inspires somebody else to do an amazing and kind thing. That's happening all over the place in our organization. This is what they look like. We sneak in a lot of kale in the casseroles. We also know that if you put quinoa or lentils in the title, don't do that. That's not a good idea. Nobody comes. Yeah. We can put them in there, just not in the title. So the restaurant and the coffee shop, like I mentioned. So I mentioned that I come from a strong business background. One of the ideas behind Convivium is that we would have revenue-generating streams that would help support all of our nonprofit and community outreach. So the restaurant and the coffee shop are one of those things. Like all small businesses, it's been a minute for us to sort of get our wheels underneath it, but we're at a point now where the restaurant is covering all the overhead for everything. So no operational costs are handled at all by the nonprofit. All of the grants, donations, all of that we get in are completely being used for our mission of improving life through food. So that's really cool. So if you come and spend a lovely day at the restaurant, you're helping feed the community. Same with our catering. So this is actually probably our biggest kind of profit center is our catering. We also rent our space out. So the area that's part of the reason why we just have daytime hours is the event space can then be used for weddings, corporate dinners, Christmas parties, that kind of thing. We're having a rehearsal dinner there tonight. And so I'm just going to get a quick drink here. We used the downtime during COVID to really, our initial mission as an organization was to create community around food. We're still doing that, but the staff and everyone that we're working with internally felt like that wasn't enough of a kind of a mission to sort of do things around. So we've changed it to improving life through food, and that's when we came up with that wheel, that we call it the wheel of what we do. At that same time, we also took the time to kind of think about what are our internal values? What are the things that are driving the decisions that we make and the direction that we're going with making new decisions and choices about everything? One of the things about running an organization like this is that you could do so many things. So what are you gonna really focus on? So these are our core values. So food, obviously how you grow your food, where you get your food, how you share your food with the community, who you eat your food with, the way that you approach everything around food is incredibly important to us. As is community, bringing people together, partnering with other organizations, sharing our knowledge, and really kind of opening our arms to all who need it. I'm going to tell you another story about something that happened over the winter, and I might get a little bit emotional about it because it was really a pretty crazy thing that happened. So I was asked to come and speak at a church. It was a small church in an outlying community, and about our mission, because that next month they were going to be donating their collection plate to all the funds that they got in the collection plate. They're going to be donating it back to Convivium. And they wanted their parishioners to sort of know what it was all about. So I was going to come. Okay. The week of the talk, I got a call from the woman who organized it. She said, one of the parishioners saw that you are hosting a drag night, like drag night at Convivium, and we are uninviting you to come and speak to at the church. We don't feel comfortable supporting an organization that would host a drag night. If anyone's been to a drag night, it's a bunch of people dressed up lip syncing. That's all it is. So, okay. And it really threw me for a loop. This is not who we are as an organization. It was a very unsettling thing. And I made a post about it on my own personal Facebook page. I didn't make this part of our organizational mission or whatever, marketing campaign. But I just mentioned that I had this really unsettling thing happen. This happened, and it happened. And I put a link to our donation page. And I said, if this is as disturbing to you as it is to me, maybe you might consider a small donation something you would have put in that collection plate. We raised $30,000 in 3 days. $30,000 in 3 days. And when I was talking earlier about that giving without strings and being generous in the world, this is what happens. Sorry, okay. Sustainability, of course, is incredibly important. The building, the Convivium building itself, is very, very green. We have geothermal heating and cooling. We have solar panels, 99 solar panels on the roof. It's built very airtight, well insulated. So we are very into that. We also reuse a lot of things. So if you come, you're going to see this thing repurposed as that thing, and so we focus on that quite a bit. And of course, education around both food and growing food is incredibly important to us. And then this last one, hospitality, that's, I think, what kind of sets us apart. And I think that this really speaks to this idea of generosity. Gosh. Oops, wrong way. It speaks to this idea of generosity. So simply giving, I just saw a line in a Mary Oliver poem that said something like, give, and give, and give until it feels like receiving. And I think that is a good thing to have in mind. So I wanted to talk just very quickly about types of generosity. You come to talks like this and you hear this crazy thing that we did in a neighborhood and, all of that, and you're like, okay, well, what does that mean for me? What can I take away from that? And I think there's not so much of, whenever we think of generosity, we're typically thinking of money, and of giving of money, but there's so many other ways to be generous, and I'd like to maybe just kind of talk about that a little bit. So generosity of thoughts, I have to work on this one myself, but just thinking giving everybody the benefit of the doubt at all times, I think is a very meaningful practice. Money, of course, and money can really get things done, so money is a helpful tool. Things, we have a lot of folks donate things to us. Attention, giving folks attention. Words, I think I like that one. I think generous words, saying good and nice things about others is important. And giving of your time and of your influence. So I just want to put that out there in the world, ways to be generous. So how you can get involved. So as I mentioned earlier, you can come to our restaurant, you can host an event, you can donate, of course. Donations are very, very helpful for us. You can partake of our catering. You can just come and take a tour and learn about what we're doing and talk about what we're doing beyond our walls. And let that inspire you to maybe go in the world and do something generous yourself. And then also, I talked earlier about our volunteers. That's one of the most meaningful ways I think that you can get involved with us is come and spend some time and learn what we're doing by volunteering. Okay, thoughts, questions. I'm hoping to have spurred some questions, and we can just have a discussion. Yes. It was a greenhouse. That was it was a greenhouse and like a floral shop. So everybody would come and get their like corsages and Easter lilies and poinsettias and things like that. So that was the little storefront. Isn't it cool? There's a house down the street with that same facade, and I'm pretty sure that they were connected. Yeah, I think the original owners lived in both. It's like sandstone that they've pulled out of a river or a stream. There's a lot of collecting going on. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Now, in the winter, you try to grow your own vegetables in a greenhouse, and then also do you charge for your cooking classes?
We'll start with the charge for the cooking classes. Yes, we do. It's one of our revenue streams. We do offer scholarship slots in all of our cooking classes, which is pay what you want. So there's a minimum of $5, but you can pay whatever you want. So we make it accessible for folks who can't afford our fees for the cooking classes. We also have a free cooking class that we do for at-risk communities. It's called Good and Cheap. This is one of our nonprofit efforts. It's based on a cookbook by the same name. And the cookbook was written as a PhD thesis for a nutrition student. She challenged herself to write recipes that would feed people on $4 a day, which at the time was the amount of food stamps or SNAP benefits that you would get per person per household. So that class we teach is free, and that's funded by the United Way. And then, what was the first question? Winter. So we do not, what we do during the year is or during the growing season is we focus on growing things that can be preserved, that we freeze or can or dry, and then we use that throughout the year. And then we have to backfill with commercial produce as well. Yes? Yeah, the yellow raised bed gardens, yep. We have about 20. We grow vegetables that we think people need or like or are familiar. So we'll do tomatoes, cucumbers, green beans, things that aren't too crazy, things that, we'll do cabbages, greens. We maintain them. Yeah, that's our gift. Mm-hmm. We have about 20 employees. Many of them are in the restaurant. On the nonprofit side, there's actually 2 business structures set up, 2 different tax entities. So on the nonprofit side, we've got, AJ, Sina, me, 4, and then the rest are restaurant employees. Yep. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I think about that a lot, actually. There's people who are just simply drawn to us. People come and it just forms. I don't know. It's a very kind of mystic experience. It just kind of happens through generosity. We have a lot of, like for instance, employees who are from the neighborhood, who are maybe would never have met or be exposed to anything like this. That's a community. They're part of that organism. We have many people who come and take classes and have taken all of our classes, and then they take one more step involved with us. They come and volunteer at a class, and then they're making a donation, and that's a way to create community. Volunteers who come and work on the casserole program. We have a group of ladies, 5 or 6 ladies, who do the heavy lifting in terms of all of our like if the meats need to be cooked off, things need to be chopped up. Those same group of 5 or 6 ladies have been doing that since September of 2020. That's a community. All of the folks who donate their space to us, that's another way to create connection throughout the neighborhood. I mean, there's just so many ways that we're coming together and creating that. Me too. Send them my way. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things for me, I have a lot on my plate, as you might, no pun intended, but as you might guess. But as I step away from the minutia of running a small business, one of the things that I'd really like to do is to try to kind of quantify what we've done in a way that is more like a toolkit or a situation where we could teach a workshop on how we've done this, to be able to get this idea, and it doesn't have to be the exact idea, but the concept at least, out into the world. So I hope to do that at some point. Yeah.
In search of a filmmaker and a writer who could, besides Wisconsin Public Radio, it's such a wonderful story.
Thank you.
And should be across the nation, I think.
Yeah. I'd love that. Send them my way.
So anybody who knows somebody who can do that kind of thing,
Woohoo.
got a volunteer over here.
Someone just actually raised their hand with a camera. Careful what you ask for.
There you go.
Can you share the history of the name?
Yes.
Or the story behind the name?
Convivium is the Latin word for feast. So it's this just idea of coming together and celebrating around food.
I noticed that your background is in journalism and anthropology. So how are you involved in when did you get involved in the food community?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I've actually thought a lot about this because I just don't have a background in food, which is of course why I thought I could start a restaurant. But yeah, that's how that works. My heritage, my father is Palestinian. He immigrated to the States in the early 60s. And this is something that I've just been really pondering kind of my whole life on the edge, and it finally came to me. There is such a strong, I don't know if you've ever been in an Arab household, you are not leaving hungry. You are going to be overstuffed, you are going to be over-coffeed, it's everything constantly. And I think that's where it comes from. I think this idea of sharing and coming together and food and all of that around that, I think that's where that comes from for me. And then I recently just read an article that said there is this strong cultural connection to hospitality among Arabs because of the Bedouin Arabs. So the Bedouins, traveling around in the desert, if there's a stranger that comes, it's a matter of life and death about feeding that person. They don't know where their next food is coming from. That's been sort of acculturated through the years. So I think that's where it comes from.
I think that we've been really hearing about how rooted in community and for community Convivium is. And I think that yes, we do want to cultivate this bigger, broader community, and it sounds like it's going great. But I was wondering if you could speak to how you also celebrate and recognize and honor like the different cultures that are here in Dubuque and in the area. Also thinking of like translation for signs, but also like recipes and cuisine. So could you talk to that a little bit?
Yes. So we have worked with many different kind of cultural populations. One is the Marshallese community, which is quite prevalent in the Dubuque area. So we have had some special classes based on basically low carb cooking. So I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a kind of a cultural issue with the Marshallese. They're very, very prone to diabetes. So there's kind of an epidemic of diabetes among the Marshallese. So learning, and that was being basically treated emergently. So any kind of emergencies that came, not the way that you treat diabetes, which is structural systemic change, in your diet. So we've worked with that population. We've also worked with, there's a group called the Black Men's Coalition in Dubuque to grow kind of culturally appropriate African American food. So we've done a lot of that and then had cooking classes associated with that as well. And then we just basically open up our space for anybody who needs it, like the drag community that we've worked with. So things like that. I think we might be running up on time. We have 4 minutes. Did that answer your question? Okay.
I want to thank you for the work that you're doing and the concept of unconditional generosity. Just because in our work we face a lot of what do you bring to the table so that you can get this type of support. And we have created a society where there is an expectation of you have to bring something to the table to receive help. And with after COVID, there was like just an insurgent of people who needed support but did not qualify for
Right.
government support. And so there was like that gap in the system, and you are filling that gap. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. That's still the case. There's many people who can't afford to feed themselves but don't qualify for any government funding, and that's going away as well. So, all right, I think we still have a few more minutes.
Since I already asked a question, I wanted to make sure there wasn't anyone else.
Yeah.
I just wanted to applaud as well, like the cultural responsivity to food. And since we just heard a talk about the gut microbiome, what multiple data studies have shown is that when people from other cultures come to the U.S. and eat our food, they come with a very diverse
Yep.
gut microbiome, and it gets wrecked
Yep.
by eating American food. And so there's a loss of the diversity, and then that has lots of ramifications. And of course, we're experiencing that too as a culture ourselves. But I think that you're doing that and
We do a lot of things.
Thank you for your work.
Yep. One more back there. I love you. Yeah.
So I'm just trying to figure out, like, all the thinking that's happened here. Like, who's your tribe, or how have you been? I mean, I think I missed the beginning because what I heard about remodeling greenhouses, and
Yeah.
this is what we've heard. So
Yeah.
help me, Rhonda.
Yeah. I think what happens, and again, I think if we go back to this generosity of thought and of spirit, that's also happening at a management perspective, at a leadership management, and a leadership perspective. I'm setting a framework, and then I'm letting people do it. So I don't want to micromanage. I'd rather just come and help if you've made a mistake, We have a very strong spirit of what I like to call iterative learning. I say all the time, if plan A doesn't work, we have the whole rest of the alphabet. So I got you. And I think that allowing creative, engaged, passionate people to do their thing is how you do that. So the staff that we have, the volunteers that we have, we create a safe framework for them to bring ideas. So it's not just me. It's creating this kind of symbiotic relationship of everything through everybody's spirit and everybody's contribution. We have a state inspector back at the ranch right now. We applied for federal license to can so that we can sell our stuff like our Bloody Mary. We have make Bloody Mary mix. Come by and have one at like other stores, and it wasn't going well when I left. And everyone's like, Stina, she's panicking. Like, you know what? I'm just going to let her panic. I don't know what I can do at this stage. If it doesn't work, we'll figure out how to make it work. And that's how I approach almost everything. So I think having that spirit encourages people to try, and to do the new ideas and to do the things. And that's how we've done it. I've never really thought about that before, but I think that's it. Did that answer you? Okay. Great. All right, I think we need to wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time and your participation. Yep.